Hey guys, welcome back to RevAtlas. I'm Sandeep, and in today's video we'll be talking about the most awaited smartphone of 2019. And no, it's not an iPhone, it's not a Samsung Galaxy Note or S series device, and it's not the Pixel, but rather it is the Poco F2. Now, a smartphone that is probably as controversial or as discussed or as hyped as possibly the Illuminati and Illuminati theories itself is the Poco F2. Now, in this video, we'll be talking about why we haven't seen a Poco F2 so far and why we could possibly see it in the later half of this year. And before we get started, please do make sure to hit the subscribe button if you liked the video, and also give us a thumbs up at the end if you happen to enjoy this video. Now let's talk the Poco F2. Now, before we get to the Poco F2, let's talk about the Poco F1 itself. And in fact, the Poco F1 is like a cult movie. It was ahead of its time and it was kind of underappreciated is what I feel. Back when the Poco F1 came out, I was there at the launch event, and we had seen a few leaks, I think a few days before the launch event, but up until then it was pretty much under wraps. And even though those leaks kind of hinted at what you would get from the device, the full picture was painted after the event, especially once the price dropped. Now, the mantra of the Poco F1 was that it has everything you need and nothing you don't. So naturally speaking, they did make a few compromises, or rather design decisions and changes that didn't exactly go down well with most of the people. Now, by that I mean that it had great build quality, and I told about that in my review as well, but the fact of the matter is many people automatically equate having a glass body to being a premium finish. So most people said that because it has a polycarbonate, which is a fancy word for plastic, because it had a polycarbonate body, automatically the quality wasn't just as good or as premium. But that's not the case. It was in fact premium. It was more durable than most other glass smartphones out there as well, but people didn't seem to get it. Then came the whole issue of screen bleeding. Now, I'm not sure if this was some sort of propaganda by some other company or whether there actually were so many issues, but the fact of the matter is, out of 9 out of 10, or maybe even almost every single person that I recommended the Poco F1 to, none of them had this issue. And later Xiaomi clarified the same as being edge light dispersion, which is rather a bounce back effect of the edge light and not actually edge bleeding, right? So it was not screen bleeding, or even if you had an affected unit, I think some of you got it replaced or whatever. But at the end of the day, the funny thing is, regardless of all these issues and things that cropped up in 2019, the Poco F1 still remains a great smartphone, and especially with the new price cuts and everything like that, it remains greater value for money. And many people are now recommending the Poco F1 and saying that the Poco F1 is a great device. And ironically, some of these people who are saying that the Poco F1 is a great device were people who were originally bashing the first generation device, and that's kind of surprising. So now when it came to 2019, and it was around July, August, which is August was when the Poco F1 came in India, naturally people would expect the Poco F2 to come around at a similar time. And there were reports coming in that the Redmi K20 and K20 Pro series could come to India, and that they would in fact be renamed to the Poco F2 and F2 Pro, or the F2 and F2 Lite or whatever. But during the course of that 1 year, several things had happened. It seemed that Poco as a company or a sub-brand had kind of dissolved, and it was no longer the case. And Xiaomi also started kind of reinforcing Redmi branding as a separate entity to kind of combat the forces of BBK and their separate brands, Realme, OnePlus and the like. So they kind of wanted to make a clear distinction between the Redmi brand and the Mi brand, right? So that's when the Redmi K20 and K20 Pro came in, although there was already a flagship in the form of the Mi 9 and stuff like that. So basically they wanted to create a clear-cut distinction between what a Redmi series device was and a Redmi and a Mi device was. So the issue with the Redmi K20 series, I'm not going to go and talk about the whole pricing thing, because to me personally, I didn't feel it was overpriced for what it gave. But I do agree with some things that people say, that it didn't follow the mantra of Poco phone exactly, where it gave you everything you need and nothing you don't. The main example of that being the pop-up camera. So while a pop-up camera is great for having an all-screen experience, it's not really a necessity in order to give you a full-fledged experience. So for example, they could have easily given you a slightly larger battery or made a kind of water drop notch and emphasized that same cost on something else, which is what the Poco phone would have done if there was a second generation device. Now, that is one of the reasons why people believe there's still a Poco device, apart from the fact that many people thought it was a bit overpriced. But in fact, I did do a kind of poll online on Twitter where I kind of asked people how much they would pay for in order to get X upgrade to this and stuff like that. And finally, the end cost ended up being similar to what the K20 Pro series was anyway. So although subconsciously they don't think that the K20 Pro or K20 was overpriced, perhaps seeing the huge flurry of tweets and all these other things on social media crop up saying it's overpriced, they felt so. So now people are still waiting for the Poco F2. Now Xiaomi also has in certain tweets, even Manu Kumar Jain for that matter, in certain tweets indicated the presence of a Poco F2 but not confirmed it. So they have kind of teased it here and there. So I don't think we can rule out the possibility of a Poco F2 just yet, or at least not in the form of a spiritual successor to Poco F2. So we may not see the Poco F2 in its true form with a device being called the Poco F2 or the Poco Phone F2, but we could possibly see a spiritual successor that follows the mantra of everything you need and nothing you don't. So now, a few days earlier, there was a new listing and a new rumor floating about a device that Xiaomi would be announcing later on in the year, that is in November or December time. And this kind of would fit the bill for a Poco F2 device is what I feel. So listen to the specifications. It's apparently going to have around a 6.4 inch screen. It's an AMOLED screen. So that itself would kind of fix or address the issues that they had with the first generation Poco device. Secondly, it is expected to come with the 108 megapixel camera that the Mi Mix Alpha is having. So that would be a world's first outside of China and outside of the Mi Mix Alpha lineup of devices. Then it's also supposed to have the Snapdragon 730G chipset powering it, which would kind of make sense considering that Realme is apparently bringing the XT 730G version also. So this could go head to head with it. Then it is also expected to have 4000 mAh battery. It's also expected to have high-end 8GB RAM model and even a 12GB RAM model. But I'm not sure how it goes exactly with the 730G, and I think that there could be a higher-end 855 plus variant that comes with the 12GB RAM model. Now the code name for this device, or actually the model name for this device in the listing is CC9 Pro. Now the CC9E was actually the smartphone that came to India as the Mi A3, basically the Android One version of it, because the CC9E actually runs on MIUI on top of Android 9 Pie. But now the other specifications also include an in-display fingerprint scanner courtesy of the AMOLED screen, but instead of going for a 1440p panel, they are giving a Full HD Plus, which seems like something that a Poco phone would do. You're also getting 20 watt fast charging, 4000 mAh battery, and the entire works basically. So it could be seen as a slightly upgraded version of a Note 8 Pro also, if you will. So we're not sure whether Xiaomi is going to decide and bring back the Poco branding with this particular phone, considering how much of fanfare it has in India. That would also mean bundling the Poco launcher with it, but considering how the Redmi K20 and K20 Pro already bundle the Poco launcher, we could very well see that translate into this device as well. So that is probably the Poco F2, or if not, maybe the A3 Pro if they decide to bring it in Android One or whatever. But if not that, then I think the Poco F2 program or the Poco program as a whole, in terms of the hardware itself, would probably be dead. But there is a very, very, very slight chance that we could see this particular device being the Poco F2, at least in India. So I'm quite excited for it. Even if it doesn't turn out to be a Poco F2, I think spiritually this is probably the device that many Poco users have been waiting for and should be waiting for to upgrade to later on in this year, hopefully when it comes in November or December. So that's it for this video, guys. If you have any questions or any tips or any thoughts about the entire Poco F2 and generally anything, as any suggestions you have, please do let me know in the comment section below. Thanks for watching this video. See you again in the next one.